Hello, everyone. Welcome to Culinary Traditions of the African Diaspora, hosted by Chana Brissett Shinegba and her husband, Saviour Shinegba, who's originally from Nigeria. And we have a wonderful panel representing the diversity of the African diaspora right in our area here in Silver Spring and nearby. So we're so happy to have so many of you joining us tonight. It's always these culinary traditions talks are always a lot of fun, and they get a lot of we get a lot of participation. So we just keep going. And our next one, we're having another one in 2 weeks from tonight on Tuesday, October 8th. It's Culinary Traditions of the Diaspora Latinoamericana, and that's hosted by another SSTCi board member, Janelle Cortez, with her mother, Belkis Talavera. And we are also we do them for all the different heritage months as we go along. So we do about 8 or 10 of them now. And we've invited some folks back who've been on other ones. So we're happy to have you. And then Chana will call on folks as we go along. Chana and Saviour, our co-host. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you about some other events we have coming up. We have just announced our autumn calendar, and on the 1st of October, next Tuesday, we are not going back. It's a panel discussion of artists featured in the We're Not Going Back exhibition at Zenith Gallery, and that's honoring different artwork honoring Vice President Kamala Harris and her fellow candidate Governor Tim Walz. So those artists will be speaking with the curator from Zenith Gallery. So that show is on exhibit till October 12th, but we are meeting back here next week on Tuesday, the October 1st. And then on Tuesday, October 8th, we have Culinary Traditions of the Latin American Diaspora with board member Janelle Cortez and Belkis Talavera. And then we have our Autumn Arts Salon. It's our last event outdoors, and hopefully we'll have good weather, fingers crossed. That will be on Wednesday, October 9th at 5:30 at the Corner Farm, and that's the Autumn Arts Salon. Bring the noisemakers with poet Brenda Bunting at the Corner Farm. So if you're along the creative spectrum, we invite you to join us, artists, filmmakers, writers, poets, and others. We have Sparkle every second Wednesday that we present in collaboration with Silver Spring Village. And the next Sparkle, October 16th, is at United Therapeutics. It's a tour of the amazing facility, United Therapeutics, right in downtown Silver Spring, which seeks cures for rare childhood diseases. So they're going to give a tour to our seniors. There's a long waiting list to get on because it filled up very quickly. And then we have our featured artist in October as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month is Realismo Mágico in the studio with artist Roxana Azar. And that is on Thursday, October 17th. And then if you're an artist of any ability, we invite you to submit up to 3 pieces of work for our virtual autumn show called De Colores, the Autumn Community Art Show with artist Marcy Wolf-Hubbard hosting. And then mark your calendars for our Tribute to America's Veterans on Friday, November 8th. At the American Legion. And then our 20-year anniversary is coming up on Thursday, December 5th. All of our events are made possible with generous support from Montgomery County, United Therapeutics, the Arts and Humanities of Montgomery County, Maryland State Arts, Montgomery College, and many others. And now let's get to the program. And I'd like to introduce our 2 wonderful hosts. They are a team. They are presenting together. They're a team in life and a team on this panel. So the first is Chana Brissett Shinegba and her husband, Saviour Shinegba, and I'm pulling them both up here. And I will put their bios in the chat so that we have more time to chat. So take it away, Chana and Saviour.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you everyone who is here, and also for those who are coming in and will be coming in. Save and I are thrilled to engage with you all and sharing our delicious culinary traditions together. And so I am just going to let Savia talk about the importance of culinary traditions. And then after he kind of just touches on that, I'm going to share my experiences and briefly, and then he's going to share his. And then we'll open it up to our amazing eclectic group of panelists, and then we'll just share our traditions and just have open dialogue with each other. I hope that works for everyone. Savia, do you want to take it away with the importance of culinary tradition?
Yeah, culinary traditions. When we first asked to do this, it's something I've always loved as a kid, like studying what's is being eaten, how it's prepared, and all of that. So for me, it's felt really easy to say, okay, like something I can do. So for me, I feel like culinary traditions are an integral part of our cultural identity. Food, the traditions around food serve as a library or a repository of like the community's history, its values, and its belief. And I'm someone who believes that food is one of those universal languages that bridges generations, that bridges geography. And I believe that's really important. And then I think preserving these culinary practices, even while being exposed and integrating with the global audience, it's something that's really important. So yeah, those are the kind of importances I put on culinary traditions. I'll let Chana share experience, and then I'll just share mine.
Okay, great. I'm gonna definitely do that, and I will not be too long. So I know some of you all know I wrote a book, which is autobiographical fiction, but I wanted to just read a quick little insert from it. Some of you may know the book was inspired by some of my experiences, and one of which describes my love for family, and it's expressed through food. So this is just one little excerpt. The one thing Grandma Rosa refuses to alter is her traditional cooking. Curry chicken, rice and peas, fried plantains, and cow's tongue with a bit of yellow mustard. She chops up her staple supper in just the right size pieces for Nina to devour each visit. Slow down, Bella, before you choke, she warns, amused at how quickly Nina abandons the plastic baby fork and digs her chubby fingers deep into the rice, clutching chunks of chicken gold, happily licking all the gravy residue clean from her palms. So this passage, this excerpt, it honors the influence of my Cuban Jamaican roots, inspired by those, and the way my paternal grandmother mixed Cuban and Jamaica cuisines, which was like a reflection of the culinary fusion of my upbringing with African American, Cuban, Jamaica, which all stems from the diaspora. I consider myself a beautiful melting pot of colorful blend of culture, which is rooted in the mother continent. My grandmother, despite being a strict 7-day Adventist, made exceptions in her cooking. I mean, she would make me tuna and some other things that I don't think she was supposed to do, but she really, we bonded over food, just like a lot of my family and I have done. Even though she was Cuban, her meals often reflected Jamaican influence to honor my grandfather's preferences. Still, Cuban cuisine runs through me, regardless of the level of connection. I want to go there one day. But many of the dishes many of the dishes that are enjoyed by the Cuban culture, I actually really love. So when I think of her, I go up the street to El Sapo. I don't know if you all know where that is, in Silver Spring, where I enjoy a lot of delicious fried fish and rice and beans and plantains. So I just feel like there's such a blend of cultures that run through me again. Some of the food, like the rice and beans, I think transfer from my Cuban culture to Jamaica to African. I feel like rice and peas, rice and beans, and all those cultures. With the Cuban, even the huevos habaneras, which is like the eggs and the tomatoes and spices. I remember growing up and my father eating a lot of eggs and my grandmother, and they put tomato sauce and even ketchup on the eggs. And I learned quickly where that was rooted. And one of my other favorite dishes are plantains. I love them crispy. I love them fried as a snack, but I really love them caramelized and soft and ripe, which I feel like Jamaicans, we love that with our spicy jerk. And so I definitely really connect to my Jamaican side, which is a fusion of African, Indian, and, obviously European influences. We use local ingredients to create dishes like jerk chicken, ackee, and saltfish, which I know is seen in other cultures as well, and curry goat. Our food are bold and spicy flavors. I know we talked about spicy earlier. And it has a history, obviously, with the sugar plantations, enslaved Africans, and native traditions. So some of my foods I really love, again, are jerk chicken, curry goat, oxtail. I love fish stew. My husband makes good fish stew. I love snapper and the mackerel. Again, rice and peas, coconut milk, tomato sauce. On my father's side, every Thanksgiving, my father still honors his Jamaican tradition by only eating Jamaican food for Thanksgiving. So it's like a tribute to our ancestors. And then I would say I definitely have been melding my culinary traditions of Afro-Caribbean meets Nigerian with my husband. And when I married him, it was such a pleasant surprise to find out how similar our culinary traditions are. The overlap in dishes, like various rice dishes, yams, again, the fish stews. And I just feel like it's, the importance of community meals, the meals with family every week. I do that even here with my mom and my sister in the African American culture, and he does that at home. He would do that at home. My maternal grandmother, again, who's African American, helped me fall in love with collard greens and yams, which again stems from our African ancestors. And I think it's just so beautiful that my husband and I can have these differences, but yet have these similar experiences. So quickly, some of the Nigerian dishes that I love before Saviour takes it away is pepper soup, which I hope many of you know. It's a spicy and savory broth that can have various meats in there. It's very comforting and spicy. I love tomato stew. I love anything with tomatoes. And my favorite, I think, like street food, Saviour, correct me if I'm wrong, is soya spiced beef.
Yeah.
Right, baby, is that right?
So yeah, baby, you good.
Soya. Okay, it's my favorite. And I really love jollof rice and coconut rice. So I love, again, to watch my husband carry on this tradition. We have a garden in our backyard. We try to use a natural organic foods to create these dishes to honor our culinary traditions. Yeah, so I think that's it for me. Saviour, what about you?
Um, I just remembered when you said pepper soup, I was laughing because there was a day, I'm gonna say my own experience. There
Yeah.
was a day I made pepper soup for her, and sometimes I forget that I am in a different land. So I added way more pepper than normal. And then I gave it to her, experiencing, oh, this is amazing. And she went with the phrase of something almost like, are you trying to kill me? I was like, and then
Yes,
and then I tasted it and then I realized, oh, okay, I think I went a little bit too far.
a little too
But
spicy for this woman.
yeah, so sometimes I think I forget myself. Um,
I'm getting better though, right? I'm getting better with
yes,
taking the heat.
yes,
Because
yes.
I can do heat, but his heat is, whoo, the Nigerian heat is rough sometimes. Hmm.
Um, So my experiences, I'm gonna share two stories. The first story is gonna be about my grandma, and the second story, which is funny, is gonna be about suya. And then I'll give it to the rest to talk about. So the story with my grandma goes like this. Okay, so before I continue, a lot of what I'm gonna say throughout this, and I think Chana also agrees with me, throughout this events or meeting we're having right now, it's gonna come from three kind of perspective. My personal perspective, like a familiar perspective within my family, and a regional perspective. And the reason I'm trying to break down this in three different ways is a quick example, like jollof rice. The way jollof rice is done in a region, like say in the Niger Delta, it's not exactly the same way it's going to be done in my family. And the way my family does, it's not going to be exactly the same way I do it. There's going to be some underlining basics we're going to follow, but because of preferences and the way things taste is going to be a little bit different. Now, going back to my story about my grandma. My whenever a meal is made, let's assume I'm giving an assumption now because I can't remember. I was very young thinking about this story. Let's assume there are 10 meats in a pot. There's something about meats in the African household, let me say in the Nigerian household. There's a way it connotes a kind of hierarchy in some way. If there are 10 meats in a pot, let's say 6 of those meats goes to my dad and my mom. You know, they decide how they're going to share it. It's my dad and my mom. They own those 6 meats. The remaining 4 meats belongs to me and my siblings. Now the ones that are gonna, oh, this is mine, this is yours. You know, we decide what happens there. But the reason I'm bringing my grandma into the story is that when my grandma is not in the house, my dad is the head of the house. When my grandma comes to the house, my grandma becomes the head of the house. So the thing she would do that was really interesting was whenever she comes, because she's the head of the house, going back to those 10 meat slices that I was talking about, 6 of those meats end up belonging to my grandma, and then the rest of us, my dad, my mom, all of us, basically we end up sharing those, right? Now, the thing my grandma would do that was so interesting was, for some reason, she loved me. I know why she loved me, but she just really loved me. So whenever she would come, she won't eat the whole 6 meats. She would probably take like 1 or 2 and then give me the remaining 1. And now I had the most meat in the house. And suddenly I was the head of the house. And then my dad would look at me like, okay, I don't think this is what is meant to be happening. And we keep giving ourselves this look. But it was just really interesting seeing the way my grandma talked about food or entertained food, because there's one thing she would say. She would be like, if we ever have an opportunity to give anyone food wherever we are, just give it to them. It's food. You're gonna, one way or the other, is gonna come back to just give people food. Food is, once people have food, they can think and they can keep on living. She just had a really interesting way of talking about food. And yeah, that was my grandma. I miss her. She died like 2 years ago, like 95, but she's yeah, I miss her. The second story is about suya. So suya, if most people don't know, I'm trying to explain it in a way that will make sense. Suya is almost like a grilled, stewed, kind of a kebab kind of stuff. So the reason I'm bringing suya up is this. Nigerians are an interesting group of people in the way we became and the way we are and what we are continuing to become. We have certain unwritten etiquettes when it comes to consuming suya. It's really interesting in terms of like this. Most times, this is the best way we would want to consume suya, right? Most people, when they are consuming a snack, they go get the snack, they go back home, and that's it. You want to consume it normally, right? But there's an unwritten law or unwritten etiquette when it comes to consuming suya. Suya is usually done like grilled or stewed on like in the public on the outside. So what you do is you go out there, you see, usually most people that do it are usually the northerners, the Hausas who make those suya, and then you buy from them. So some people take that soya straight home and just eat. But there's kind of an unwritten law no one talks about. In terms of the best time to consume suya is in the night. walking down in the night with a newspaper and there's like a toothpick. These etiquettes are not written in stone, but we just know that if you really want to consume suya the best way, you want to do it in a newspaper with a toothpick and walking in the night, just like let the moon, like just keep on walking around with your suya. And so it's one of those traditions that is interesting to me because no one ever told us this is what we should do, but for some reason it became a tradition that we do ourselves. Um, yeah, I think those two stories I'm going to start with. I didn't want to give too much into it, and I give everyone else the opportunity to be able to share their own experiences with their own traditions. And yeah, that's it for me. I'll give it back to you, baby.
Okay, great. I'm just gonna call on Diana because I think she has a little time limitation. So I just want to make sure, Miss Diana, can you please share your experience and your culture, where you're from?
Sure. Well, actually, I was born in the States. I was born in New York. However, I grew up in a totally Caribbean household. And there's a story. I actually have two stories as well. The first one was that I ended up growing up a lot with my great aunt, like my elders in Bermuda, and that's a whole other cuisine. But my first um, Thanksgiving in the United States, I was about 5, 6 years old. And we had Thanksgiving, we had curry and roti,
Mm.
typically Guyanese. We had pepper pot, which was typically Guyanese, which is made with cassava, and we had which is cassava with casrip, which is something made from the fermented cassava. We had blood pudding. We had all of these wonderful things. We had corned beef and cabbage as well, but like prepared. Um, Guyana was a British colony, but we had all these great foods, right? So, and this my family tells all the time. So I go to school on Monday morning after Thanksgiving, and I come back home, and my family tells it this way. So I'm pouting, and I'm a little, and what's wrong, Diana? What's wrong? Didn't you have a nice day at school? I said, yeah, okay. Well, I finally fessed up that um, the teacher asked us, what did we have for Thanksgiving dinner? And everybody said they had turkey. And we didn't have turkey. We had, and so I said, everybody else had turkey, and we had corned beef and cabbage. And my and my mother's thinking, oh no, they're thinking corned beef from the can, and then we really don't. But it was actually, real corned beef cooked and all this other great food. And so what my family said, which was a family tradition after that, of course we'd have our curry and roti, of course we'd have our cook-up rice and all of these wonderful things from Guyana, but we always had a turkey. And that's my immigration food story. And even if the turkey got left there, because everybody else really wanted the home food, So that was a really important part of growing up and learning to be here in the States. The second story, well, my dad was from Barbados, so of course we had to learn how to make cuckoo, which is, cornmeal, and okra, and um, it's actually a lot like fufu, except it's made with cornmeal.
Mhm.
And we had all of these things that were part of our heritage. So when I got married, my husband was from Senegal. And so, like you, Chana, I learned to love food from
Yeah.
the island as well. And he was a really great cook, actually. He was a professional cook for a while. And so I had all of these things that I knew from the Caribbean. We had peas and rice, not rice and peas. We had peas and
right.
rice
Mhm.
every day. And so it was wonderful. But with Gorgie, I learned to love chebujen, which is the real Wolof rice. We have to have that competition in there because that's the red rice that comes. It's called jollof rice, but it's really Wolof rice. And we had super kanja, which is like a stew in okra
Mm.
and with palm oil, which is really great. It's from the south of Senegal. We had yassa, which a lot of people know here, which is like a lemon and onion chicken. And my daughter's a much better cook than I am and cooks all of these things as well. But, you know, these were things that I had to learn. And so we had great cooking. And we realized, again, that the food was very similar in many ways. So it was very comfortable to be eating this food. And it turns out that this is the food of global Africa, of Africa and the diaspora. So when I went to visit Senegal for the first time, I said, oh, well, you know, the jollof rice, that's cook up rice, you know? And we had the cuckoo too, but it was only called fufu. And so I think that it's really a wonderful thing. My family always came together and still comes together around food, and we've incorporated foods from the other islands, like from Jamaica. You know, we make some jerk chicken, and we'll make some you know, if we have friends, we'll have callaloo
Just gonna bring that up. I was
and
gonna ask you, do you make hallelujah? Because I've had that in a Guyanese setting because I was very
huh?
close to the Guyanese family. So I almost forgot about pepper pot. I'm sorry to interject, but
No, no, that's fine.
you're making me hungry.
Oh gosh, I'm so hungry.
I want some pepper pot and callaloo
Yes,
and
yes.
all
And
right.
well, I mean, I was saying this is gonna make me really hungry, this whole conversation. But you know, for me, and as you were saying, you know, food is something that is so important to family. And um I think that it's the thing that brings us together as well and shows us, you know, where we a friend of mine said that the blood that connects us is so much more than the oceans that separated us, you know. And so I think it's one of the major cultural expressions of our communal people, you know,
Mhm.
together. One last thing I have to say, because I have these cousins who I love, but they're really kind of over the top. Like they do things in a big way. I shouldn't say they're over the top. They do things in a big way. So I recently went to a celebration of a graduation, and they had ginnips. I don't know how many people who knows what ginnips are. They're little fruits. They're green on the outside, and then they're kind of white on the inside and kind of slimy, but they're really good. And sugar cane.
Mhm.
And they had well, they had jerk chicken and so on, but sugar cane and ginnips, and I can't remember what the other thing is now, but these are things that really typify the Caribbean experience. And when I first took it to school, that same thing, I took some sugar cane to school, and they said, "Are you eating bamboo?"
Right.
They didn't realize. But I could go on, but I'm going to stop here. And thank you for organizing this.
Oh, well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Diana. You just made me so hungry. And it just reminded me of the beautiful Guyanese culture.
And it just, wait,
Go
Angela,
go
and
ahead.
talking about the sugar cane just made
Yeah.
me, so sugar cane, okay. There are some things that are so hard to get in its natural form in this country that sometimes it makes me want to just plant some things, apart from the garden we have.
Right.
Sugarcane is one of those things we enjoy, like literally, you would hold a whole sugarcane this long and just start eating out of it. And if
Yeah.
someone saw you eating out of it here, they would think I don't know if something is
Heard
okay
that.
with him. Well, it's really good. It's like natural sugar. It is best for, But just hearing you talk about sugar cane just made me think of
I
that.
think I think
But
one of the first.
that's not an African or Caribbean thing because when I was a kid in South Carolina, my grandmama grew sugar cane, and
Oh,
we'd break the sugar. So I was a little kid eating sugar cane,
It
South
was
Carolina.
everywhere.
So Africa brought it over here, I guess, with the collard greens, but it
Yeah.
was not. It's a southern thing. Sugar cane. You'll find out, Saviour. We got a lot of it in the South.
I do remember, I think the second time I met Saviour or saw Saviour, I feel like he was chewing on some sugar cane. I feel like I remember that. But anyway, such a great story. I think I wanted to make sure I got Carlos.
yeah.
Is Carlos here?
I think he's here.
Okay, great. Carlos, do you want to chime in and talk about your beautiful
Sure, I
culture?
can join in now if you want.
Okay, great.
So yeah, as has been shared already, food is like a bonding element for Trinis in many respects, whether they're born in this country or born back home. There are certain foods that are just common through our experiences, and during the holiday time, especially Christmas time, is a very festive time back home. Very different to over here. But so I'll just share some of the foods that are very common throughout Trini culture. So pilau, you all might know what that is, which is basically rice with chicken, and it can have shrimp in there as well too. Macaroni pie.
Mm.
I don't know if you know what. Yeah, the Guyanese I think make that as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doubles, which is
Oh,
something.
doubles. Yes.
Yeah, which is something like the shape of a round shape, like a pizza or something, but much smaller, with chickpeas and curried chickpeas in it, and potato and different things. Nowadays, they're putting a lot of other things in there. You can have it with shrimp. You can have chicken in there. For people who are vegan, you can have veggies and fruit in there instead of the meat. But it's delicious. It's a street food basically. So vendors will be selling it on the side of the street, cooking it on the side of the street as well. And you walk and eat that, while you're liming, as we call it back in Trinidad. So at Christmas time, boiled ham. So we bake the ham, and then we also boil it and put pimento in it and let it cool. And that's a Christmas tradition as well too, boiled ham. As is pigfoot sauce. I'm sure some of you know what pigfoot sauce is, where you boil the pig feet, then you mix it up with Scotch bonnet, pepper, and cucumbers, and onions and lime, shadon benny, what do they call shadon benny over here? Cilantro, and it's like a mixture, delicious. I don't eat it too often because of the pork, but once a year or something like that, yeah, some sauce is good. We also, as was mentioned just now, we make cuckoo in Trinidad as well too, which you make with yellow cornmeal and okra. I sometimes will put turkey sausage in it to season it up a little bit, or chicken, with the traditional. And it's interesting because that was considered poor people's food back in the day. That was what the slaves ate, and they made most of what nowadays cuckoo in a good restaurant could cost you a good penny. Yeah, it's
Yep.
really, yeah, it really turned. And of course, roti. Somebody mentioned roti just now. That's something that I know we have in common with Guyana as well too. Uh, we eat a lot of roti. I went back home in February for Carnival, and the first thing that I wanted to eat after I got off the plane was my cousin traveling. She asked me what you want to eat. I said roti. and for almost a week afterwards, that was all I wanted to eat. I mean, I can get it over here. There are places here, but it's not the same as back home. I mean, it's sweet back home. At Christmas time, we make black cake, or some islands call it Christmas cake, with currants and raisins and plums, prunes, and lots of rum, of course. So, she mentioned also crab and callaloo. That's something we make as well. We make it with dasheen leaves. Dasheen is what's called in Africa and the Caribbean a blue food. So things like dasheen, edos, yam, things like that. But yeah, the leaves from sometimes it's hard to get the dasheen leaves here. There's a place in the Red Apple. I don't know if you all are familiar with the Red Apple on New Hampshire Avenue. They sell Caribbean food, and they sometimes will have it. But if I can't get that, I use kale and spinach, and it comes out pretty good. So crab, callaloo, I'll put in the turkey legs sometimes to substitute instead of the beef that's supposed to go in there. That comes out pretty good. Of course, I mentioned also yam, edos, green bananas, plantains been mentioned already. That's part of the culture. We have something that with probably in other islands too, we call buljol, which is salted cod. And then we
Yes.
boil it to boil the salt out of it. We cut it up and mix it with onion and tomato. And you can eat it like that. Or you can fry it at that point and make cut saltfish fritters with it. With flour, mix it with flour. See some thumbs going up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I see Diana is nodding along. She knows a lot of
You
these
know,
dishes.
Can you relate to
You're
Carlos?
making me seriously hungry, Carlos, because I know that in what we used to have on Sunday morning, we'd have codfish, and I remember boiling the codfish because it was salted fish until
Right.
it got just the right consistency, and then, as you say, the tomatoes and onions. And in Bermuda, it's a big thing with avocado. You'd cut avocado and you'd put it, but not the avocado you see here, but the real nice big Caribbean
Big ones,
avocado.
yes, right.
Yeah. So, but
You're so right. Go ahead, Diane.
I had a question for you. Did
Sure.
you drink Morby?
Absolutely, I still do.
All
I
right.
have some in the fridge now.
Oh, really? I'm on my way over.
I was going to get to. I'm glad you mentioned the avocado with the buljol though, because the other thing that we do with it generally is we make what we call fried bakes,
Yes.
which is basically flour made into rolls, and then you flatten it and then fry it. We call those fried, and you eat that with the buljol. Delicious.
Oh
Bacon shark. So again, fried bakes with shark meat in it, and then you can put all kinds of things in it. You can put pineapple or mango inside of it, lettuce and tomato, and it's a sandwich basically. That's very popular street food as well too, especially during carnival time. Oh my God!
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then things like for snacks, we have. I think somebody mentioned kurma just now. Was that Diane that mentioned kurma? Kurma is basically a kneaded dough that's sprinkled with granulated sugar, and it comes in like sticks that are about the length of a finger or something like that, a bit thinner. It's delicious. That's basically street food as well too. Mango chow, kind of self-explanatory, or pepper mango as well. We use that for basically you take a half green mango, chop it up, and put spicy pepper, what we call bird pepper, which are the thin ones that are hot like crazy, and mix it up and eat it like that. Breadfruit chips, another walking street food snack. And for other things, we have carrot cake during the Christmas time. Tulum, I don't know if, probably Diana knows what tulum is, but basically it's grated coconut mixed with molasses into a ball, and you bake it.
Oh, yeah.
To die for. My grandmother used to bake those, and Trinidad used to make those and sell them as a street food. Delicious. Pone that we make with either cassava or with what's the other? Diane, what do you make it with in Guyana? I know it's not always
well,
not always with cassava.
It was not something that my mom made or my grandma made. But I remember we had the little coconut cakes where you put a little bit of flour and then coconut. Is that what you're talking about? Because it would be almost like a candy.
No, this is more like a pie, like you would make an apple pie or
okay,
something like that.
Oh, pone. Yeah. Oh, pone.
Pone.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm
Pumpkin.
thinking
Yeah, the
that.
other thing is in Guyana it's made with pumpkin. In
Yeah,
Trinidad it's cassava.
yeah.
But I make it with both. I go back and forth.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's coconut, grated coconut,
uh-huh.
the cassava or the pumpkin, and you make it like you would be making a pie and bake it, with spices, different spices and things like that in it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's not something. I mean, what I was thinking, that I didn't mention, but is really interesting is, the cassava cakes. Did you eat those? The ones,
Yes,
white
yes,
cassava cakes?
yes.
And, and that came from the that came from the indigenous people uh,
Right.
of Guyana, but it was a real treat when you got it. Usually somebody would have to bring it over. But you
Nice.
mentioned black cake, and there's so much about black cake now. I remember we'd always get a black cake every Christmas. My grandma would bring over black cake, but the biggest thing with black cake was at a wedding when it would have that almond icing,
Oh, okay,
the
nice.
pearl, and the thing is, if you wanted to get married, you'd put a little bit of black cake behind your ear before you left. That was the tradition in Guyana.
Cute. So you mentioned Morby already
Something,
just now. Mentioned a couple of drinks. Morby is one of them, which is a tree called a Morby tree. There's a bark that actually comes off of the tree, and it's what is used to make the Morby. You boil it, and then you put Angostura bitters in it and other things, vanilla essence and sugar. It's really good. Sorrel, of course, many of you probably aware of what sorrel is.
Yeah, we
We
have
have that.
sorrel in Jamaica too.
And then around the holidays, we have what punch de crema, which is eggs with condensed milk, evaporated milk, rum, uh, bitters, nutmeg, and you mix it. It's like the equivalent of the what they have over here at Christmas time.
Eggnog is kind of,
No, say that again.
it's sort of like eggnog.
Eggnog, right? That's our equivalent of eggnog, but it's a lot more potent, and I think more flavorful as well too. So that's kind of a
Awesome.
broad brush. There's a lot more, but given the time, that's a broad brush of the things that you'll find in mostly any home and in the holiday time. Things that I mentioned, yeah, pretty common. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Well, all right, I'm going to go to my friend Nancy. Nancy, would you love to talk about your culinary tradition in beautiful Kenya?
And I have to leave. I'm sorry. I will have to hear the
Oh.
rest but I have another appointment that's coming up right away. But Nancy, so I'll have to listen to you on the recording. But thank you
Thank
all.
you, Diana.
Diana.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for sharing,
bye.
Diana.
Thank you.
Hi, Nancy.
Thanks for sharing, Diana.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Nancy, are you? Oh, there you
I
go.
can. Oh,
Okay, from where I come from, food is what brings a family together. Food is like it's also used as a teaching tool for
Mm.
everybody, and the young girls and the young boys, or maybe, but mainly this is where the aunts all go together, including grandmothers, mothers-in-laws, and they pull you all into the kitchen. So you're grouped. The younger group, maybe you do the peeling of the peas, there's carrots, there's onions, whatever it is that's being done. But it's a place that people are brought together, and it's a teaching tool. So Kenya also, we're divided. I'm a mixed blend of Kenya English. My mother was born and adopted by the British. Her mother died at childbirth. In Kenya, the British were that was the colonialism period. So my mother was adopted by British. So I have a bit of the British, I have the Kenyan side. So I come from the side of Kenya where, if anybody has the history of Kenya, Kenya was a country that was used for slave trade. The Arabs brought in the spices and traded for people. So we get the masalas, or the kind of food we eat. It's savory. It's slave trade brought that over. Now it's not the whole of Kenya. Some parts of Kenya have a different kind of food, but masala is pretty much known by all people. There are parts of the country that do the fish. I'm more of the lamb, the beef, the chicken. part of the country. We eat fish. Fish is there because I guess my mother brought us up in fish, but mainly cooking is a big thing. You don't find one person in the kitchen, you find several. Women, there'll be a few guys, but women mainly are in the kitchen. As a guest, you're never a guest in a Kenyan home that you sit in the living room. You arrive, you put your handbag down, wash your hands, walk into the kitchen. That's the tradition. People just know that. Even if the owner of the home is not here, that they look for who is the closest one who leads the rest to the kitchen. And food is a whole big thing. My people are vegetable people too. They love a lot of, so when you're cooking, it's a whole blend. Most kitchens have big tables where everybody gets a piece and you sit down there and you eat. Things that are common. In Kenya, we grow rice. So basmati rice is our rice. The Indians take it, but we say we have it. So we claim basmati rice.
I love
So we do a lot of coconuts as well. So most of our food will be cooked in coconut rice. If anybody has ever tasted it, that's a savory. Are you getting hungry, Chana?
Yes,
Don't
I
get
love
hungry.
coconut rice. It's my favorite in Nigeria. So I'm sure I'll love it in Kenya too.
So most of our foods, spicy, but in a savory way. It's not hot.
Right.
It's spicy. It's a curry base, but in a savory sort of way. Anybody understanding food, masala is where we kind of fall in. Kind of almost the Indian food, but different from the Indian. The Indians have a hot in it. Ours is more curry.
Yeah.
So when foods are cooked, unlike Saviour, we don't mix meats. Every meat has to be cooked differently. So we have almost 4 platters of meats on the table. I know Saviour always tells me,
The reason,
mix it
so
together.
I know I'm interrupting. The reason from my perspective why we do it like that, life is too short for you to just have one meat in the pot. You throw the lamb, the goat, the chicken, fish is debatable. But you just throw everything in there because you never know when next you might eat all of those. So, put it in and keep it going.
To each their own, but for us, you have to taste each one of them to know the difference of each meat. So, I mean, it's just a culture. They do it that way. I grew up looking at it that way. So the first time I saw meat mixed, I thought, what? What happened? So, but in the process of cooking food in Kenya, it's kind of like a storytelling. It's where people build a culture and you get to know who you are. When you get married off to a new family, it's a whole new tradition. You are started by the grandmother and the children. You're put in that level first before you can get to the sisters who grill you pretty good. And then you get to the mother-in-law, where now she watches you and tests you. So it's a learning experience, but once you hit the mother-in-law and the grandmother walks in, you've passed your test. So it's an unwritten statement that she's passed, she's okay. Now you can be allowed to cook for the men. But before that, you check her food before it goes out. So I guess it's a history of where you're being taught and you're being blended and you're being made to fit in. Common foods in Kenya, depending on the part you come from. Rice is very basic. We have ugali, which is similar to the Nigerian fufu, yeah. But ours is cooked hot and on the pot, and unlike the Nigerian one.
Okay, wait. So I know I'm interrupting again.
That's okay.
So one thing, Nigeria, there are a lot of things you can talk about Nigeria, but the one thing we do get well, I say this is the one thing I can be proud of, is that we classified our fufu and all of that as swallow. So you have like fufu, semolina, wheat, millet, pounded yam, and all of that. Now, fufu, we don't do our fufu hot on the pot, but things like semolina and probably wheat, it's almost the same way you make your ugali, where you there's a hot water and you're pouring in the flour and then you're like turning it with the turning stick and all that. So that's one part. I just wanted to say,
yeah, but you guys, you take out yours. Ours, we let it stay on the stove for a while. It's covered and left there to cook for a while. You guys kind of stir yours and pull it out.
Actually, not to interrupt. We do have both sides. You have the one that you actually are cooking on the stove and the one you cook off the stove, right? So it depends on what you're using to make your fufu. So you have fufu from various things, from your corn, from your millet, from your plantain, your semolina, from your cassava, from your yam.
These
Yeah.
Nigerians are trying to kill me. Ours comes from corn and
Yes.
millet or sorghum.
Yeah.
No, we get from everywhere. We don't
Okay.
do one thing. It's like the meat. We
Okay,
don't
so
do one thing.
so we differ a little bit on that one because mainly it's either corn or millet, sorghum, and sometimes you can mix the corn and the millet, but you have to be an expert to do that. So
Oh.
so I didn't know you had one that you cook on the stove where you're patting it with a cooking stick, and when it comes out, it should come out curved.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes. And with our corn also, you can have it where you make it hot on the stove, but then you have to put it in the banana leaf and you leave it to the side before you actually eat it.
I think that's now Ugandan. There's a Ugandan here. But theirs is it's a banana that they do. We don't use, we put our sweet in the platter. We were messed up by the British. We're not quite Kenyan. We are messed up a little bit. So we use plates and all these kind of stuff. They don't put it, But so ugali is one of the common meals back home. Chapatis of different levels. That's where I say where the mother-in-laws come in to check to see if you know how to cook it. The more flaky you have in it, then you become an expert, because you eat a chapati and think, oh, I ate a chapati. A chapati is like flatbread. It's made from flour, wheat flour, and there's a system to it. You just don't cook it. Some people just roll it out and say, I made chapati. But people like me, I can walk into a kitchen, I can tell, okay, the level of that cooking was not, or is a certain level. So that is common. Mutton is very common. Mutton is lamb, sheep, and it's, we eat the tripe. The tripe of the lamb is actually made by certain people who know how to cook it. When you don't cook it right, it's not very common, but tripe, the stomach of the animal, is very, is considered to be a delicacy. What else do I need to talk about Kenya? We cook a lot with coconut. We cook a lot with cream milk because we have the cows and the goats. So many a times, many people are taught to make butter from home. So I was taught by my mom and my mom's elder sister, who taught me how to make butter from ghee. I mean, how to make butter and ghee from milk. So they teach you. That's something that you're taught how to make. It's supposed to be when you can do that, you're considered a certain level. You're given the credit of she's a cook. She can do this. So hey, cook.
I love it.
Somebody saying something?
No, I was just saying I love it. I love
I was gonna ask you, Nancy.
Dr. Chapman, hi.
Hey, I've been listening. I wanted to ask you, because in Senegal, they have a national dish, so to speak. It's the dish of Senegal, but it is Senegal. Does Kenya have a national dish? A dish that is Kenya, that represents what everybody eats in Kenya?
Those are the meals I was talking. Those, if you see that food, you know you've gone to a Kenyan's house. If you see that, those are the meals I was saying. Okay. But to be welcomed into a Kenyan home, they have an open fire. It's almost like an open fire pit, but it's bigger, and they tend to open fire roasting of beef or lamb. And when you're doing that now, you're really in a Kenyan home. And then they have their traditional drink that goes with that. It's almost like it's not a beer, but it's kind of made from sugarcane. And by the way, Kenya has the best sugarcane, Saviour, not you guys. You got the good sugarcane.
Boom, there you go.
Continental fight. Okay.
All right, you know what, before
I thought we were gonna be arguing about jollof rice, but now it became sugarcane.
All right, we're gonna not talk about jollof rice yet, or we will never get to anybody else.
All right.
We're gonna
I can talk about it. I know the answer.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go to our friends from Sierra Leone. Should we talk to Isa? And then Danielle, get ready because I see you in here.
Danielle is here. Good.
West African, right?
Yes. You know, when I think about the different traditional dishes in Sierra Leone, the thought just takes me right down my childhood days. I think about the aromas of the different foods. I think about the sounds of the like the bubbling sounds that, you know, they make when they're cooking over either the charcoal or the firewood or gas or kerosene. I see the textures. I can even taste the food. I'm sure by now you know that I love food. I really do enjoy food. Growing up through observation from my parents and grandparents, one of the things that I learned is that you must offer food and water to your guests. When they come to the house, that is a must. It's an unwritten law, and it's something that you must do. Because, like some of you have said, it's just an expression of our love and hospitality to those persons that come into your house. And so it's something that I have carried with me even to this day. Some of you have talked about rice being your staple. Sierra Leone is rice is our staple. We can eat that in the morning, you can eat it in the evening, you can eat any time of the day. We eat our rice. And we serve our rice with soups. And when I say soup, I'm not talking about like broth, liquid. No. Anything that is served with rice is soup. It can be vegetables, it can be pepper soup, it can be anything in between. And growing up also in Sierra Leone, we cook certain foods on certain days. Like on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we'll cook sweet potato leaves, cassava leaves. We can cook greens, which in some Caribbean countries you call kalaloo. And then a variety of others. But on those days, those are what we cook. And these soups that I've mentioned, they share very common ingredients like smoked fish, palm oil, meats, and yes, we combine our meats just like in Nigeria. So we'll put our tripe, we'll have the beef, we'll have pig's feet, which I absolutely love, and palm oil and hot peppers. We cook a lot of hot peppers, and so those days we cook those foods. On Fridays, usually, there are like 3 main dishes that we cook. We'll cook because they're easy and they're cheap. So we'll cook like one pot. One pot is where you put the rice in the pot, and then you put your smoked fish and your peppers, your spices, and your meats, and you let it cook, and all of that juice and all of that is absorbed in the rice. It's just delectable, honestly. I can taste it right now. And then we have ebe. I think ebe is also cooked in Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
It's a vegetable porridge, where in Sierra Leone we use cassava, we use yam, sometimes we use plantains, we use sweet potatoes and palm oil and smoked fish. We let it all boil together and cook into a thick paste, and we eat it. But we also have beans. When I think about beans, I think about my father, my deceased father. My father used to love to cook and to eat beans. The only problem with my father was that he didn't have the patience to wait until the beans was cooked. So it would end up being hard, but it would still taste good. I mean, it was very tasty. So that was on Fridays. On Saturdays, we cook what I call like the heavy duty soups. They are labor intensive, let me tell you. I mean, we as kids, we used to work very hard just to help out with the cooking. And so on Saturdays, I'm going to name some of the soups, but that will be from like easiest to the hardest. So we'll cook like okra, we cook sorrel, We cook jute leaves, which in Nigeria, I think you call it ewedu.
Yeah.
We cook,
Yes, we do.
yes, we cook jute leaves, but like the cream of the crop is bitter leaves. Bitter leaves is like the hardest, it's like the most labor intensive. But when you know how to cook bitter leaves, it's like you have arrived, you have won the medal. I mean, all of these other soups, yeah, that's fine. But once you know how to cook bitter leaves, it's like you have really arrived.
Isa, that bitter leaf, I am trying to train my palate to love bitter leaf because my husband loves it so much.
I
Okay.
keep telling her
It's
not
bitter. It's
I
bitter.
know it says bitter leaf, but
He
it's not
calls
really.
it sweet. It's not.
You have to let your ancestors speak to you. It's like when the food digests.
I'm lost. My ancestors know I'm lost. Okay. I don't.
Suggestion there.
As it's not bitter, as is not. I know the Nigerians like a little bit of bitterness to it, but
Yes.
as it's not. In fact, when I was growing up, we'll pound that bitter leaf until my grandma would say it's supposed to be sweet. That means it should have no bitterness in it. So
Okay.
when we cook ours, we make sure all the bitterness is out.
Okay.
But we eat that with fufu, cassava fufu. Some people don't like fufu, so some will eat it with rice, some with agidi. Agidi is fermented corn that is cooked into a thick paste, and then we put it in banana leaves. So some people eat we call all of these Saturday plazas. Saturday is just patois for Saturday. Saturday plazas, and you can eat them, all of this. And another thing about agidi also, when I'm talking about agidi is one of those foods that you eat when you're sick, when you're not feeling very well, because it kind of gives you appetite. So we also eat agidi when we're sick, and ogi pap. Ogi also is fermented corn, but that is more like light porridge. So we do that. And so on Saturday, we also cook the soup that we eat on Sunday. And that is either the stew, saltfish stew, which was my mom's favorite. My mom really loved her saltfish. Or we cook what we call fry soup, which is stew. But then we add like beef, chicken, pig's feet. And and that soup we eat on Sunday and Monday.
Wow. That's amazing.
And then on Monday, sometimes if it's not enough, there is a phrase in my household that we're going to raise the soup. My grandmother would say, okay, now we have to raise the soup.
Yeah.
Increase the soup. So we'll add water to that soup. So now it's not fried soup anymore. It's like boiled stew.
Yeah.
So we have increased that soup so everyone can have some of that soup. And the jury is out. Also, I have to mention this about jollof rice. We talked about that the last time. I'm going to say it again this time. But jollof rice is one of those food that when I think about happy occasions. It brings a lot of happy memories to my mind, like weddings, like birthday parties, and things like that. And I can think about even when I was growing up, they would cook jollof rice out in the yard with a three-legged pot. The old people would be cooking jollof rice. But I want to talk a little bit also about some of the snacks that we have in Sierra Leone. We have rice bread, which is similar to banana bread in the Caribbean. And then we have akara, rice akara. Rice akara and rice bread have similar ingredients. But for the rice akara, it is fried into balls. For the rice bread, it's baked. It's sometimes baked in a pot with the firewood under, and on top you have charcoal. It's really tasty, and you have all that charcoal smell that seeps into the banana bread. It's very tasty, and it's usually cut into squares. And then we have granite cake, which just means groundnut cake or coconut cake. But when I say cake, I'm not talking about what you're thinking. It's not your typical cake. It's not like the 1-tier or 2-tier. It's a flat sheet that we cut up into different sizes. In Ghana, they call it inkati cake. But that's what we call cake. I would like to mention something before I wrap up. When I think about snack, one of the snacks that brings me such pleasant and warm memories is what we call beans akara. It's beans akara. It's fried. Sometimes you add a little bit. It's made from beans. You like pound like grounded beans. It's mixed in with onions and a little bit of pepper, and it's fried. And when I was growing up, there was a street vendor just very close in our neighborhood. She made like the best beans akara. And so we'll line up, just to wait to have the taste of her beans akara. And we couldn't wait to just sink our teeth into it's crunchy on the outside, but just very soft and moist on the inside. Just simply delectable.
Sounds
And I must mention before I end anyway about our beverage, ginger beer. Ginger beer is one of our traditional beverages in Sierra Leone. I know it's also common in Jamaica.
Yeah.
But ours is made quite differently, but it's ginger beer nonetheless. So I hope you have learned a few things. I mean, I've learned a lot from the other panelists. And so that's
Thank you, Isa.
Fairly.
Thank you. Daniel, do you have anything that she may have missed or that is some of your favorites that you have that we haven't heard yet?
Man, she took it home, like for real. She really
Right.
she
I'm
took
going
it
there next.
home. So my mom is Creole. I'm thinking Miss Freeman may be Creole, but my mom is a Creole. And that lineup is the lineup that she does every week. So yeah, so it's giving me a lot of memories back from back home. My dad's side, we're the Mende. And when so I grew up in the States, but when I was 14, I was fortunate enough to go back home to Sierra Leone during the war, and I stayed there for about 2.5 years. So as a kid from North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, coming back to his homeland, his birth country for 2.5 years, and it was like a new world to me. It was a whole new world to me. So my mom, the Creole people, we're mostly in Freetown, Sierra Leone. That's where we mostly stay. And so she stayed in Freetown, Central Freetown. And so I had to go visit my uncle who it's called an upline in the village in Kenema. So there was a whole, the food and everything was it's similar, but it had its own difference as well. So a lot of the things that Ms. Freeman just said, the food dishes, the cassava leaf, the crane, which is jute leaf, the rice and stew, all of that applies. But upline, what was something that was different in Kenema in the village, we have something called pemaun, which was what we eat in the morning, but it's made out of potato leaves, and we eat it with rice. And like she said, rice is our staple. There's a saying that if you haven't eaten rice today, you haven't eaten.
Yeah.
We eat rice constantly. But on my mom's side, I got it different because her line is like her bloodline is Nigerian because of my grandfather. There's a group of Sierra Leoneans that are Nigerian background, but she'll mix the eba, she'll mix the fufu, she'll mix all of that into it with her dishes. So I really like going home to mom because I get to eat so much diversity of food in ranges. So because her culture is very ranged, and like I said, they're the people who came, the free slaves who came to Sierra Leone and settled in Sierra Leone. So my great-great-grandfather was a free slave that settled. There wasn't indigenous to the country like my dad's side. So my dad's side, when I lived up in the country, I got introduced to certain food like I said, my own certain fishes like maconde. It's pretty much is a dry catfish.
Catfish, yes.
Yeah, so it was called maconde. And there was also something I got introduced called bushmeats. For those, so
Which ones? Which ones did you eat? Sambo, monkey, which ones?
Well, my dad tried to have me eat monkey, but I was like, no, I'll pass on that. But there's a whole bunch of bush meat, pretty much the bushes from groundhogs to whatever's in the bush. You know, we get to eat that.
Sounds like what we call wild meat back in Trinidad.
There you go.
Yes, exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, we eat those there. I'm not sure if they have it here, but so yeah, so I got introduced to that, and that was the good thing. You know, that I went there. I stayed there for 2.5 years, and I love the food. A lot of the things Ms. Freeman said, I don't want to repeat. I'm just gonna just catch areas that she probably didn't mention, but we have a wide range of food. Drink wise, pemaun. I'm sorry, drink wise, pollo. This is palm wine. It's like wine from the coconut tree, I guess, fermented. Then they got the other one that's very strong. I forgot it. They make it like a drum, but it's super strong. I forgot, but it's the same thing as the palm. Is it amole? But
It's
something.
like a fermented.
No, it's
It is called
pomole. That's
gogoro.
not for you. That's not good. That's not a good drink.
Yeah, that's like 99 proof.
Oh no, that's gonna kill you.
They call that one a gogoro.
Yes, 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 yes. No,
Yes, yes.
All right, well, that sounds delicious. I'm trying to get as many people as I can. Nathan, I see you. I'm gonna get a couple more younger folk in here. Do you want to share your experience, your culture, where you're from? Talk a little bit.
Of course, yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me as a panelist on the African Diaspora discussion. It's
Yes.
an honor to represent Ethiopian culture and the cuisine in this amazing conversation. So I want to share like a little story with you guys, along with some of my favorite Ethiopian dishes.
Great.
But before we dive into that, I was born in Nazareth, Ethiopia, and I moved to the States when I was just 3 years old. Growing up here, I didn't have the fullest introduction to Ethiopian culture or its like traditions. My parents did try their best to keep me connected, but let's be honest, like it's hard to capture the true essence of a place when you are thousands of miles away. It's like trying to experience a vacation through someone else's photo, which, you know, doesn't make sense. Um, that disconnect kind of followed me into school. Like, I think just like a previous panelist who is not here anymore, Diana, she shared a story. More specifically, it was the story where she went back to class after Thanksgiving break, and the teacher asked her, "What did you have for Thanksgiving?" And unlike Diana, I kind of got nervous and I blurted out turkey, mac and cheese, cornbread, you know, like all the typical stuff. And I said it because I wanted to fit in with everyone else. But the truth is, like, I really hadn't found my own sense of self or culture yet. It was like I knew where I was from, but I didn't feel it in my bones. So fast forward, I had an opportunity to go back to Ethiopia. The trip was a game changer for me. I didn't just experience the food, but I remember like just the warm welcoming from people. People invited me to their homes, and we would sit around in these like big communal dishes. They're very flavorful, spicy, savory food, and it wasn't just about eating the food, but it was just like the feeling of togetherness and the back and forth conversation, the laughter that seemed to never end, and the feeling of like connection that, you know, brought, kind of the food brought to life. It made me like realize just how powerful something as simple as a meal can be. It was like at this moment where I finally understood like food wasn't just something that you ate, it it was how you bonded, how you celebrated, how you showed love. Coming back to the States after that, I had this new sense of pride, this deep understanding, kind of like this richness of my Ethiopian culture. Um, and some foods that I really enjoy, I just share them with you. I enjoy kitfo, just like minced raw beef seasoned with spices. Tubs, sauteed meat, usually beef or lamb, cooked with many vegetables. Shiro, and then misirwut. I don't know the ingredients, but I heard that we have an Ethiopian chef, so I'll leave that to her to do that.
Amazing. Nathan, that's, first of all, I feel like you're a little poetic there, describing your experience and your culture. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So yes, we can, can we go
Chef,
to
Chef
Chef?
Beth?
Yeah, Chef Beth. Thank you, Saviour, honey.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi, guys. How are you? Thank you so much for having us tonight. This is a
Yeah.
wonderful conversation I always enjoy. Nathan, I just loved hearing you talk about the food, and I'm glad you enjoy Kitfo and all of those foods. But what I want to talk about is the wisdom in our culture and the wisdom in the food. And I feel like we're like losing that wisdom because we're running towards civilization. But I believe the civilization is in the way our ancestors cooked the food,
Right.
you know? So for me, one example always is berbere. We use berbere in kitfo, like in misirwut, and most of our dishes. And berbere is a chili powder, and it's seasoned with over 16 ingredients. And I can count some of them, like ginger, it has garlic, it has turmeric, it has a nigella seed, which is a black seed, it has cinnamon, it has cumin. And when I sit down and just go down the list, those each ingredients are supporting your immune system. And you're eating berbere in a little bit of it each day, which means you're taking your multivitamin. Food was not just something that you eat when you're hungry. Food is something that goes in and nourish your body, strengthen your immune system. And they made it to where, like, how many of us collect these amazing vitamins from the shop, and they're like, we take them for a week and then we forget all about them, you know? And then they're expired and we have to throw them away and we go and buy a different bunch of vitamins. But our ancestors like organize our foods to be that, you know, it's not, you don't even think about it. You just eat it each day a little bit at a time. And I think my mission these days is to creating that connection. I don't want that wisdom to be overlooked. You know, I want to bring it to the front of our youngsters, and I want them to, like, every time they eat something, I want them to think, what's in this food? Who ate this food? For how long have we been eating this food? You guys were talking about the bitter leaf, the green. You know, no one wants to eat anything bitter, but trust me, there is major beneficial stuff in it. So you better start learning how to eat that bitter leaf, girl.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna interject, Beth. I'm gonna interject. I just have to real quick.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you saying this. Being in the, you know, the catering world and the culinary world. I
Yeah.
make jokes. Save it teases me. You know, I'm all about pretty food and fine
No.
dining.
Yeah.
But fine dining is all about perception. And
Yes.
Cynthia, he cooks fine dining as well. But he always tell me, you know, food can't just only be, it's about where did this come from? There's a story, the nutrients, keeping us alive. Like it's, so anyway, I just appreciate your point of view about food being medicine and wellness and, you know, cultural and ancestry.
Yeah. But
That's so
again,
beautiful.
it doesn't have to be, we can also make it
It's
pretty. I
pretty,
love
right?
pretty food. You know,
Exactly.
we can
Exactly.
definitely make it pretty and make it, can jazz it up, girl. Honestly, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to, it has to please your eyes before you eat it,
Right,
There's a saying
right.
in my country, if it doesn't look good when you see it, it's not going to be good after you eat it. There's a saying. So you have to also make it look pretty. So, but I think the most important thing is there is so much wisdom in African cooking. There's so much wisdom. They didn't just cook food because they were hungry. They observed for centuries. I think the blessing in my culture is we've never been colonized, so we didn't adapt to any specific cooking system. So, like we retained most of those, way of cooking generation after generation after generation after generation. And for me, like, who am I to, modify or change this food that's being cooked for thousands of years,
Right.
and like I can never come up with something better, for sure. And they did it, and this was perfected from generation to generation by observing, by adding, they know by adding this herb for a reason, by adding some of the herbs like in our foods, they don't make any difference whether you put them or not, but they make a difference once you eat them, in your body. Say, for example, turmeric and ginger are always in our food, always. What that does is, like, as soon as you eat it and it goes in and it finds any inflammation in your body and it calms it down. For any disease, all the disease in our body starts as inflammation, and that's when you don't treat it, it goes in becoming into something else. So if you consume your ginger and garlic in your food always, that means you're calming those initial inflammations before they start. So don't skip that step. So it's not about, it's always important for me now, every time I cook, question, what is this? Why is this? So I hope, we all can do that and share more.
And just to interject, thank you, Chef Beth. You saying these words really inspire me in certain ways and for certain things. So I'm sure most West Africans here, or probably most of the African continent, know this condiment called Maggi cube or not cube. Maggi somehow, I feel like would have interacted with Maggi one way or the other. It was about 3 or 4 years ago. I think I was talking to my uncle, and I was just thinking to myself, like, what did we use before then? So, and we still use it in some of our cooking, but just I never really grew up around it a lot. So there's something back in Nigeria that's called locust beans. So locust beans in the first place called like I think in our also say dawa dawa. In my place we call it
Yeah,
ukasa.
dawa dawa. The Yorubas
Yeah,
call it
Iru, I believe
Iru,
Iru.
and there's
Locust
special
beans
part of it also
naturally,
called Okiri. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no worries. And locust beans naturally helps reduce hypertension, high blood pressure, right? But at the same time, we are using Maggi to spice up the food we are cooking, which if you use a lot of it can be detrimental. So I'm just thinking about what you're saying about how processes and traditions and cultures that have been done hundreds of years ago is something, for some reason, we just abandon it and do not go back to it.
Yeah.
It's just something I just thought about, and I think it's something I really,
Yeah.
on my own personal level, I really want to try and implement in my dishes more.
There you go. My job is done. I make you
Yes,
question
boom.
everything now. That's it. That's
Amazing.
all I want to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I really want to say your name properly. Amuzu, Savia, help me.
Oh, I'm not. I will let. I can't pronounce. I will say. I don't
I
want
do
to make.
not. I'm trying to be respectful, and it's a beautiful name.
Yeah, you know what does that mean?
Yes.
Abinigan's mean life is bigger. Love is big. Abinigan.
Oh, love is big.
Yeah,
That's
love is big.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love
So,
that.
but thank you so much
Yes.
to offer this special way for us to share our memory. I believe one of the things I want to say, food is like is a culture, is a music, is a art. is a creation. So I grew up as a boy among so many girls in my family, and then my mom, for no reason I don't know, will always catch me. Hey, boy, follow me. So I'm always in the kitchen helping mommy because mom have a little business. Used to be supplying hospital, and then with the Agidi. Somebody talk about Agidi, how Agidi can save, especially people who you have a surgery, people who still on the hospital bed, need force to get transition. So mom had to wake up like at 3 a.m. in the morning, do that process of fermenting, process of corn, and then get that cook and deliver it to the hospital early in the morning, then come back. We'll come back to this from school, come and help and go to Zongo. Zongo mean what is the Muslim Hausa people get together to pray. So they also have their turn by noon. They had to eat. So it became a tradition. So you had to come because I don't want you to die hungry. And then one day maybe your wife will let you go. You had to know how to cook. So that's where I learned to cook, and then I cook, and I didn't know how to cook small. When I cook, I can cook for 20 people because I don't know how to stop. But it's a way also to see the whole West Africa, how we get connected on the food side. Different name, but different way to cook those foods. And then I have a chance to visit Latin Africa playing soccer. Is it the same texture, the same way our grandfather, grandmother cook it? They be cooking in Sierra Leone, Liberia, Benin, Ghana. So uh, it's a powerful how food also can bring a joy. Most of the time when we have a party, if you don't have a food, people always can't create and they just talk and then they leave. But when you have a good food and party, you see people stay until this next day morning because it's good food. Especially when you can give around 3 a.m., 4 a.m. pepper soup. Believe me, that one also keep people to leave your house 6 a.m. So uh, is it something we can't forget, even from here to Brazil, well, to Haiti, in Nicaragua, Panama, where they move our people to go to those lands, to Trinidad, Tobago, St. Lucia. The food is the same until today. So it is something we just have to be grateful to God to make sure we see ourselves sometime to a good food, and then make sure the food to be a nutrient to us, not just because of you hungry you had to eat, but a way the food was carried on your home, your parent cooked the food, the way it was presented, those kind of stuff we had to appreciate and make sure today, even if we are far away from home, our tradition still follow us, and then we get together through food and some other festivity, but the food is the central things who bring people together. And then it go also to in the family. As a woman, you have to represent your family. If you don't know how to cook, it's also another shame you brought to your family. So it's a total demander. And then in our culture, as a lady, you had to make sure you learn away from your mom, your parent, your grandma, how to represent them in a different family. So those things I just want to share tonight to let everybody know we are connected to food, especially people who come from West Africa and they even go to Brazil. I went to Bahia, Brazil, and I went to see a food we eat at home over there. And I was so surprised how people brought that food here and cook it the same way my mom or my grandma was cooking. But I barely know there's my people who get there, who brought those traditions with them, and they keep it until today. So yeah, it's getting late. I'm not gonna hold, but thank you so much to help us to bring a good memory because I transitioned through life moving to from Africa, and then also learn French cuisine, and then he can move to USA. So I really know exactly the fine texture for food, especially the combination of the ingredient, make you bring something delicious to your tongue. So yeah, food is a culture, is like a music, is like a arts, and it's so powerful. It's so powerful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I just want to say the takeaway I have from you is, I mean, we heal through food, we commune through food, we make decisions. I bet food represents, and you're right, there's no good party without food. And I know that when Saviour and I went to Belize, it's such a multicultural place, and I feel like we recognize our cultures there, and we were surprised, like we're so far from home. He's from Africa, I'm here. And it was just so beautiful how we were able to connect with the people through food and familiar food. So thank you. Betsy, are you still here from Uganda? I would love to hear from you.
Yes, I am. Yes,
Wonderful.
I am. Okay. I just posted 2 links in the chat for everyone to check out Hakuna Matata.
Nice.
Okay, which is the Ugandan restaurant. Well, Uganda, we have a lot of the foods that most of you have mentioned, bananas, potatoes, cassava. The rice is more of the Indian influence. Rice, chapati, samosa, those are more like of the Indian influence. But in the mid, I would say like for the central Uganda, western Uganda, and southern Uganda, our like staple food is bananas. In Uganda, we call them matoke. And matoke, you can either boil them and mash them, and that kind of, you serve more like fufu, or what is the other name for fufu? Ugali in Kenya, okay? Or you can also boil the bananas and mix them with the meats and vegetables, and that we call katogo. If you ever stop at Hakuna Matata, please order katogo, but it's very nice and tasty. Bananas with meats and vegetables, it's really very nice. We also have a lot, especially from where I come from, Southwest Uganda, we have a lot of millet. Millet also, if those of you are familiar with millet, you kind of it's kind of like the fufu ugali kind of thing. And it's like a very, like really highly respected where I come from in Southwest Uganda. But for all of you who really want to taste Ugandan food, I really want you to check out Hakuna Matata. It's in Wheaton. The links that I sent have the address and a picture of Paul, the guy who's in charge. And it also, one of the links has like the different dishes on the menu. So please, please, please check out Hakuna Matata in Wheaton. It's in Wheaton, okay? And let me see. Beth, I just want to say, from Ethiopia, I just want to say that I really liked what you have at your place, and I will be stopping by one of these days. But for everybody else, I really want you to check out Hakuna Matata. Growing up in Uganda as girls, your mom is always asking you to learn how to cook, and it's like, why aren't you asking my brothers? Why just picking on us? But that's the African way. Women are supposed, it's like they're kind of grooming you up to be a good wife and, a good caretaker. But Uganda, we have a lot in common with a lot of the different African countries, the dishes and what we like to cook, and cooking being cooking and hosting guests being part of the culture. That's how you really welcome somebody into your house. The first thing is you make them a good meal. I remember growing up, whenever somebody came into our house, my mother would tell people, go make tea for them, go make tea for them. And tea, that's kind of also the part of the Indian influence, but we drink a lot of tea. Personally, I am still drinking my tea at least 4 or 5 cups a day. I love my tea.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I realize it's kind of getting late. I want other people who haven't had a chance to make their presentations, but for Uganda, please check out Hakuna Matata. And for those of you who remember Lion King, Hakuna Matata means no problem. Okay, so
I love it. Yes.
Check it out. Check it out. Thank you, Chana.
Thank you so much.
And by the way, in Uganda, Chana means
Yes.
babe.
Say it again.
Means babe. Like,
Babe.
babe, like cute babe.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
that's neat.
Chana. That's you.
I thank you. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Cheryl Chapman still here? That would be my mom. Let's see if she's still on.
We saved the best
Hi,
for last.
Hi, Mom.
I was trying to get Nathan to tell me all because I'm an Ethiopian food addict too, but
Me too.
it was good. I just want to be real quick because I think there's some questions maybe people may want to have. I am a 1949 Jim Crow rural South Carolina birth.
At least I hope it's in here. They said they delivered it to the front desk.
Hello? Someone's
Oh,
talking?
please mute if you're not speaking, just
Okay.
in case. Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, traveled north with my family. So I had the deep southern cuisine, and then had the New England cuisine, black and white. And then I ended up marrying someone from Senegal. And so I just want to talk to you about being a foodie because I've cooked for 5 children and I really don't like to cook anymore. I cook for special occasions, maybe once a week. But he liked this, I forgot, was it Carl's or was this other gentleman? He likes to cook his food. But we also have a home in Dakar, Senegal, so we're over there a lot. So I just want to be real quick about what I've learned about Senegalese food and then what dishes I like. But I'm going to be real quick. First of all, I want to talk about he's Muslim, and I want to talk about the sheep, the Eid, the slaughter of the sheep, the Eid al-Adha festival every year. And so the meat is really important because you kill the sheep. You could do a cow or a goat, but you kill the sheep and the jugular vein, and it's divided amongst the family, friends, neighbors, and the poor. And there's the prayer, there's the visiting, and the exchanging of gifts. That was kind of a very different way of having Easter, my Christian high holiday. And this high holiday was really, really different, celebrating Abraham. So I had to learn about the powerfulness of sheep, halal, the lamb. But then I also learned the daily routine in Senegal in terms of food, which is you have breakfast. It could be, my husband always get, the bakeries are all over the place, fresh baguettes, just fresh croissants with chocolate in it, and the milk, the coffee with the milk. But lunch is the big deal, and the whole city shuts down. I mean, people do lunch, and I mean, it's like big. People have cooked. The women have cooked, mostly women, but they've cooked all morning, and by the time you get to lunch, it is incredible. And it's every day at noon. And I remember being downtown with my husband. He says, "Well, they're getting ready to close down." I'm saying, "What do you mean close down? The banks close down? Everybody shuts down for the big lunch." And then they have the tea time, and then dinner is really afternoon snack, but dinner is kind of lightweight. So I really did learn about a whole different ritual of eating as a social, societal thing. I mean, when you have the whole city eating at the same time during the day and you close down everything, that is powerful. You all were talking about the bonding. It doesn't get more Senegalese than that. Everybody is eating. Your sister is bringing you food. The neighbor is bringing you food. You're cooking food, lots of food, and it's shared. So some of the dishes that I just want to share with you very quickly is I was texting Saviour about jollof rice. Jollof rice is a real big deal in Senegal, and I think there's some discussion about did the Senegalian part of the world originated. To me, jollof rice is like rice with tomato sauce, but somehow it tastes different on when Senegalese cook it. The national dish I want to share with you is tibijen. Oh, and you know what? They eat that almost every day. I mean, when I'm over there like for 2 or 3 months, I be saying to my husband, I can't eat any more fish. But I am going to learn how to cook because he cooks it well. In that you have everything from a whole grouper, about 5 pounds, and then you have vegetable oil, onions, green bell, tomato paste. You have hibiscus flowers, peppers, black pepper, green pepper, yeast, green cabbage, turnips, eggplants, butternut squash, yucca, carrots, bitter eggplants, whole okra pods, handful of tamarind pods, white rice or jasmine or basmati. They eat that there a lot too. That's washed to drain with 2 limes. And this comes out in a big old plate. And when I first used to go, we ate with our hands, and they would push the hands, they would push the best part of what was in the plate to me to eat. Now they all eat with spoons when I go there. It's become a little Western. But this is like a really big deal. This is their national dish. And they do not get tired of tibijan. That's what they eat every day. Is good. The other 2 dishes real quickly, and then I'll let you know that clearly I love Senegalese food, and I love it when it's well prepared. And my husband's has a younger sister. She's brilliant cook, and everything is just divine. Another one is the lamb shank mafe. You've probably heard of mafe. That has the peanut butter in it, and then chicken thighs with the red palm coconut rice. Those are my dishes. But I like almost anything Senegalese. Except if it's too hot. They do sometimes eat that hot pepper that they can put, that little red pepper they can put on their meat and their food. They do not do a lot of mixing of meats. I think they do put chicken and lamb together, but they really do a lot with lamb for holidays and celebrations, and fish. Chicken is a big deal. We bought some chicken, my husband and I, for a wedding of a family in the neighborhood. But this is kind of the Senegalese food is the way they connect to each other across the city. And you go into the rural country, they connect that midday lunch. On Friday, the men go to the mosque, mostly men go to the mosque, and then they have their break afterwards of the food. It's just incredible. So that's all I want to share. I think that's what I was supposed to share, right, Lisa? About how I am a Senegalese foodie junkie. I like the Senegalese cuisine.
Yes, you've got us all hungry here, Cheryl. Great.
Thanks,
There is a book that I can put in the chat. Modern Senegalese recipes from the source to the bowl, by Pierre Tim and with Jennifer Sitt. I'll put that in there because it is a beautiful book, and it shows you the food, but it shows you the people, and so you can see it is really a cultural anthropology that's contemporary, that shows the people, the food, the environment, and what it means to be Senegalese. Whatever it means to be Senegalese, it always means that there's specific kinds of food that you eat. And I could hear that from other parts of the continent. I love this. Thank you.
Negative.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
Negative.
Yeah, negative.
Mangifi.
I don't know while if I'm learning French. I understand it, but I don't speak it yet, even though it's been 35 years. I've been there. My husband holds my hands. The children all laugh, giggle because they see this Muslim man holding my hands and hugging me. It's because I have not mastered the language all these years. I'm retired now, so I'm studying the language. The little kids call me, there's a word in Wolof for white woman. They call me the white woman. I kept asking her why they call me that. And he said, because you don't speak Wolof. So I'm going to master Wolof for the children in the village that we're in the middle of Almaty, right on the water. And these children I've watched grow up over the last years. But I will put this in the
Thanks, Mom.
chat.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to go through quickly, Lisa. This is my Senegalese food that my husband cooks. That my husband cooks brilliantly.
Great.
Great. Is there a restaurant that has good Senegalese food that we could also try in the area?
There's one right there across from the AFI. They opened up recently at Senegalese restaurant.
Oh, that's Senegalese. Okay.
Yeah,
What
it's
you
right
talking about?
across. It's right up the street from what's that other place? The
Next,
seafood place. It's right
it's
up
near the
street.
Cow Tie and Jay Hollinger's.
Yeah, it's right there. That's
Is
It's
there
right
right
there
one?
at Cow
Is
Tie.
there 1-2 on the Collegeville Road? Koite?
Koite, right? That's the name.
Koite, yeah, there.
Mhm.
And there's a
Yeah.
restaurant that they've opened in DC that I need to check out. It's kind of multiple African cuisines. And I heard that this kind of, upscale. I heard it's very good, but I have to check it out.
Saviour, I'm sorry. I know we haven't talked about Haiti, but what is a Haitian restaurant oh, I guess it's technically not Silver Spring. It's right across the line, but it's nearby.
Oh, there's this
Amazing.
beautiful Haitian restaurant. It's
Georgia
called,
Avenue. Everyone
I
should
think it's
go.
called, I think it's called Port-au-Prince.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I think it's
It is in Silver Spring. It's actually
Oh, it's technically Silver Spring. Okay.
Yeah.
It's one of my, I mean, it's amazing. Sorry. That black
Yeah.
rice, or do we even have? It's
yeah.
amazing.
You know when you're eating the food and your legs start moving on their own. You know you're eating good food.
Yeah. I think we found love all over again because of the food. All right. Abby, do you want to
All right. Yes, I know we're coming to the end, but
No,
it's
but
good
please,
to be here.
please
And
share what
actually, I'm seeing all the trends. It's coming from Africa all the way to the Americas. So that's good. Every time you look through, you're seeing something that is very familiar. So I'm going to stress a little bit about the healing part of the food, why food is medicine, why it's a comfort, and how we've been able to get from the garden to the kitchen. So we have this project, that we've been doing in the diaspora. Um, Yes, that's right. So I am the current president of the Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, the DC chapter, and I also practice with a small non-for-profit organization here in Montgomery County that's dedicated to the overall health and wellness, of our community. So part of what we stress is we want to be well, and we also want to thrive. So it's not just enough to be well; we have to thrive. So that's why the emphasis is on what did our ancestors, what did our folks used to do back home? They went to the garden and everybody grew what they were using for their food. So it was fresh. You didn't have to like refrigerate or freeze. And then you didn't cook and then have to zap your food. You're microwaving it. People cooked daily. It was fresh. So you were able to absorb all the nutrients of the ingredients that you were using to make your cooking, right? So we've started the project where we have like these garden plots that we've been working on. We get the foods that we've cultivated to the home reading, the elderly, and we're encouraging, folks in the neighborhood to, you can start your own garden. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. Even for folks who are living, in their apartments, you can have your window box, herbs. You could do, your small vegetable garden. You could do even like a community plot, you know. So that's the emphasis. Some of what we've been able to grow that is actually thriving, of herbs and greens and stuff from back home. So we've done well with the rosemaries, the basils, which are a significant part of cooking, the kale, the collards, the mustard greens. We grow them well. Mentioned, which we also call the ewedu, or I think in northern Nigeria, also it's called monukea from the Arab tradition, and okra. So we keep encouraging people to please go with that because one, our food has to be stimulating, it has to be appetizing, right? It also has to look good, to us. It has to smell good because it is a taboo, especially in the part of Nigeria that I come from, for you to smell your food. I know sometimes, like when people want to absorb what is, the essence of the food that will smell it, that's a total taboo. What you will do is the food, it shows itself by what it looks like, what it smells like. So you have to have your ingredients all together that will help you bring up, all these parts of the food that you're cooking. So going a little bit to what does the food mean to us? What have our people been able to achieve? Food is a comfort food. Okay. So you want it to, like, I know others that talked about like your agidi, which is their call. We have that in Nigeria too. I come from the southwest of Nigeria, and this is a big staple for when folks are ill. It comes in, especially when you're wrapping it with the banana leaves. It has that medicinal part of it also to help you heal faster. So the food serves that purpose. Food also brings us together. This is a time when, families are coming together. I know others have mentioned this, where you have multi-generational, the younger ones, when you're in the kitchen, you get pulled into the kitchen, whether you're a boy or a girl, right? Because again, I think it was what Daniel, and even probably on some level Saviour too, where you're in the diaspora and you can actually cook for yourself. You don't have to wait on somebody else helping you cook. You're not going to starve because you learned that from your tradition, right? So you're in the kitchen, there's this hierarchy. The younger ones are the ones that are doing the prep work, and the mothers are cooking. And you're actually watching as well, because when you do go to your husband's house, you have to learn you have to show that you can cook. You have to demonstrate it. I know, I believe it was Issa that was talking about, your mother-in-law and all your husband's relatives. They're literally like watching to see, okay, let's see what you can do. When you get to be able to cook your organ meats with other parts of the meat, and you can taste each organ meat by itself, you have arrived, as we say. You have demonstrated that you were taught well from your tradition back home. You can actually cook good food, right? So we mix all the meats together because we're able to make it in such a way that you can still taste the various parts of the meat. The flavor still comes out. And part of the way the flavor comes out is we do slow cooking. You don't just like turn it off. It takes time. It takes time also for you to be able to pick up the ingredients that you're going to use the very best. As time goes on, you're going to the market, with your mom, with your grandma, and then you're learning how they're able to pick the choicest that's going to bring out the flavor of your food. So that's one aspect of it. And I just, for the side, to touch on to where that tradition is, it also goes in southwest part of Nigeria where I originally come from. It is that, the hierarchy is the men get the choicest part of, usually like the chicken, who gets the thigh, who gets the drumstick, who gets the chicken feet. The chicken feet goes to the babies because it has the cartilage. So they're using that for their teething and all. But then grandmas will usurp, the men in the house. So when they're there, they become quote unquote the one that gets the best part of of the um of the meat parts, right? But then grandma will also do something. They will favor their grandchildren. So literally, you're giving it to them, but they're also shelling it out to the grandchildren. So that's one part of the food culture, the tradition that I find very interesting. How that works. Again, for food, what else it serves for us is regarding, a celebration. We use food when we're happy, when we're celebrating, like weddings and all. Way back then, you didn't have caterers. It was a time for all the women in the family to come together, see each other, talk to each other. You knew who cooked what well. By default, someone is mentioned, it's usually like outside, so you get a chance to get together and you're chatting and you're talking about your family traditions and the history. So that's another opportunity. That's something else that food brings. It ties us together as a family unit, doing this. The cooking for us in southwest Nigeria, especially like in Lagos State where I come from, it has this, I guess, distinction that even for sad times, it's food that we use. The only difference is you can tell what the occasion is by the type of food that is being prepared or being served. For instance, if it's a death and it's a death of someone younger, you will never find anyone serving jollof rice. Jollof rice is meant to be a celebratory food. Okay, it's reserved separate. But you will find what is the akara. I think Isa had mentioned that in Yoruba part of Nigeria, the southwest, the akara is specifically targeted towards the beans, the black-eyed peas. So you wouldn't call, I think like in Sierra Leone, there's the blanket name akara. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? So we will make akaras just from the beans, from the black-eyed peas for that sad occasion. When it's for babies, you make another akara, but it's not called akara. It's called puff puff. Perhaps you've heard about that. So when that is being served, you know that it's a happy occasion. A baby is being born, right? That's what you would use. It's another type of akara. So the type of food, you can tell what the occasion that's being celebrated is simply by the food that is being served. So because I come from the water side, Lagos State is by the Atlantic Ocean. We have all the lagoons and the islands all around, the creeks. We are big on seafood.
Yum, yum.
So lots of fish in our diet, in our tradition. The crabs, huge dungeon crabs. Perhaps that's part of my affiliation with Maryland. Um,
Yep.
so you will have that as part of the staple of the tradition, and we do a good cooking. If time allows, or maybe later on, we can share some of the recipes,
Sure,
like for the
sure.
fish pepper soup. What we eat here as fish pepper soup is not called traditional fish pepper soup. We call it imoyo. This is, you're trying to not get sick.
Right.
Someone is ill, you will serve that fish pepper soup, and it boosts your immunity. It helps to hydrate you. It's full of those antioxidants because of the ingredient that goes into it. It's also used for like lactating women or women who just gave birth, because it has all those special herbs and spices in it to help with that process that the woman is going through. And for time, I might not be able to share some of the recipes. I
Yeah,
can send it out
sorry,
later, and it
we're
can
over
go.
we're over 2 minutes, so we just want to maybe
Yeah.
little
So,
closing or
so just to wrap up again, we do love to eat with our hands, because I think I mentioned at the beginning, it's because, your hand is not going to disappoint you. It helps to sustain you. So it's better, the food tastes better when you're using, your hands to make it. One quick thing that I want to point out regarding the bitters, the bitter leaf, if you use the iru in it tapers that bitterness down. It's also about how you squeeze, right? You will still retain the nutrition you need, but it will take the edge out of the
okay.
bitterness. So it will bump it up, some for you. So I guess, yeah, that's in a
So
nutshell, for the time frame that we have, that tradition that we bring here and how we're adapting it, and how it's actually cutting across some of our folks that have come before we came back into the diaspora. So I
thank
thank you.
you. Thank you so much. It's been such
Thank
a
you,
great
thank you.
lesson.
Mhm.
Savia, I think we've learned a lot. We shared a lot and we learned a lot. I feel like time really flew by. I was
Yeah, I didn't know how it became
Okay.
2 hours. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
we
Thank you,
appreciate you all for
everyone.
coming through.
I am
Really.
having an event November 17th, so everybody's invited to come and celebrate our 13-year anniversary banquet from
Oh,
our organization, downtown Silver Spring, City Hall, from 2 to 7. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Send out the information to Lisa.
You okay?
yes, please. And then she can share it and we'll
And
all
we're
come.
looking
Okay.
for a chef to support that day for the event too. So if anybody know anybody, please hit me and we find a way.
I may know somebody or somebody. So yeah, I know chefs who are looking to do, outside work who may culturally be appropriate. So
Okay.
connect with you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before
Thank
we
you.
go, Miss Abby, I would really like to have a contact for you, either your phone number or your email address.
All right, I can put it in the chat.
Please do.
Okay, thank you.
And I
Hi,
can
hi,
connect
Barbara
you.
from San Diego. Hi, Barbara. Hi.
Hey, Barbara.
Au revoir,
Hi,
bonsoir.
Barbara.
Hi,
Okay, good
Mommy.
night, everyone. Some of us are ready to sign off.
Okay.
Good night. Good night. Thank you so much, Chana, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Betty.
you.
Bye.
It's been
Thank
so
you so much,
fun.
guys.
Good night.
We'll plan an outing to Hakuna
Thank you
Matata.
all.
maybe. Thank you again to our hosts, Chana and Saviour.
Thank you,
for
Chana.
hosting.
Thank you.
Everyone have a
Bye.
great
Bye,
night.
guys. Have a good
Thank
night.
you all.
It was
Bye-bye.
very interesting. I learned